Um, so we are going to, yeah, hopefully you, okay, yeah, they're recording it. Continue. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully you'll get some idea about how to choose this program, university, and mentor. And oops, okay, and we will talk about what you actually need in your application portfolio. What in your portfolio is like, the whole set of things that you need to put into your application form, and how do you go about putting it together and preparing it. So all of this is going to be like we'll give you a brief overview, like a guideline type of thing, okay, where to look for. But if you want us to dig deeper and probably spend more time on a particular topic, just please let us know in the Q&A. We can spend more time on it that time. Okay. Um, so before I continue, just a little bit about me. I think most of you would have stalked me on LinkedIn already, but let me just tell it over here also. So I graduated in 2017 from our very own NIT. Then I came to University of Toronto in Canada, and I got my master's in applied sciences degree in 2019. From then on, have started my PhD over here. So, like a big picture idea, I work in the field of fluid mechanics. To put it simply, I try to study the physics of what happens when a certain type of fluids flow. So that's what I think that's all is enough about me for this talk. So if you want more details, we can talk later. Um, so I want to start with by talking about what are the different types of master's programs that is available for you. The reason why I thought I should like why we thought we should talk a little bit about this is many times we don't realize that like there are slight differences between what each university offers. Even within the same university, they offer different types of master's program, which might be at times confusing when you go through their website. So, just in general, you can classify the master's programs, the degree offering programs, into roughly two types. Like one of them I call as the course-based masters, and other one I call as the thesis-based masters. So in the course-based masters program, you definitely have, as the title suggests, like course requirements. So to get a degree, you have to complete a certain number of courses, and there may or may not be a research project requirement. So usually say if you have a take a course for like 2 credits, instead if you're going to do a research project in a lab, you might get like probably 3 or 4 credits for that. Um, so that is just how the degree requirement for course-based masters works. For the thesis-based masters, again, you do definitely have a course requirement. Every graduate program is going to definitely have course requirements. You cannot run away from it. That's the whole point of it. But in addition to that, a more important component is you're required to submit a thesis. You have a thesis requirement, like a solid research project, which you have a committee and you talk about your work, and there's something called you have to submit a document, which is a requirement for your degree. And in most cases, it's usually these thesis-based masters, which are generally, in many cases, they are funded, or at least they are partially funded. But this scenario changes from place to place. Like say in Canadian universities, the thesis-based master program is completely funded. But in US, if you take, for example, some universities offer some funding. Some universities may not offer any funding, even though it might be a thesis-based masters. Um, and sometimes even midway through your program, you have the choice to move from the lines are not so distinct. It's kind of blurry. You can move from one to the other, and like you can move from a course-based masters to a thesis-based masters. The department may not have a very hard distinction between the two. So some European universities, like say TU Delft, Netherlands, where I think some of our classmates and even my batchmates went to, they have partially funded thesis-based master's programs. So it's partially funded. So I think they give you a certain scholarship at the beginning of your program. But after that, they say you pay for the tuition, all those things. So it's partially funded. Also, many times what happens is when students enroll into a master's program, they don't really say it's a thesis-based program or anything like that. But once they join a lab to do their research project, say for their degree requirement or even just out of interest, as an assistant or something like that, as a research assistant, where you don't get paid. Sometimes they might like the lab and the supervisor might like you as a student in the lab, and they might offer you a position in the lab to continue as a PhD student or to actually work on a thesis in the lab. So these are all some things. I'm just putting all the different type of scenarios out there. I don't mean to overwhelm you, but I do want you to be like kind of aware of what you are actually applying for. So most department websites are very clear about it. They actually tell you can act when you're looking at a university and you're looking at the department's website. I encourage you to actually go and look at the degree requirements. So that is usually very clear. They tell you, they're so clear, they even tell you how many pages should be on your thesis or how many courses you should take. So, and even then, if you are in doubt, you can always write to the department. So never shy away from it. They are very helpful as long as you don't spam their inbox. And if you ask like, legit questions, it's okay. Don't ask them questions about did you receive my application or do you know if I'll get in? So they are not, that's just annoying. So don't spam them. But if you're going to ask like legitimate, very some things which are genuinely not clear to you, you can always get it clarified. Okay. That's just a brief overview. I can talk later if you're interested in Canadian universities. I've spent quite a bit of time in Canada and I know what's the scene like in some of these Canadian universities. I can talk in more detail later on if you're interested. If anyone in the crowd here is interested. So let's move on. So now what you're going to look at is how are you going to prepare your application portfolio. Just a minute, I'm just going to, yeah. So first thing is, it might sound like, you have to fill an online application form. And what usually goes inside this form is you have to upload your transcript. Usually you are expected to send in your GRE or TOEFL and IELTS scores. You have to definitely put a resume. And then you have to send in, your recommenders should send in a set of letters supporting your application. And then there's the all hail the statement of purpose, the SOP. So this is what is what a typical application portfolio look like. So I will be covering points 1, 2, and 5. I'll touch upon them. Like there's nothing to talk about one much. And Anushka will actually talk in detail about points 3 and 4. The only thing I want to talk about, I just remember something which many times I've seen people sometimes miss it, is when you're going to send in a transcript, always make sure you scan the backside of the transcript which has the legend, because many times it's easy to skip it because not many people understand what is a S grade or what is a A grade, or even the point that we are graded on a scale of 10, like 10, like from 0 to 10, whatever it might be. So always make sure you scan your legend, and that's there on the behind on the backside of the transcript when you're sending in your application. And one very important, I can't emphasize this enough. Please keep track of all the deadlines, and always make sure you know which time zone you're working in. This might all seem like very trivial things to think about or like to say now, but please do make a note of it. You'll be surprised how crucial they might be when you're actually sitting down and applying to, like, I don't know, 5-6 colleges and you're all flustered. So maybe you could create an Excel sheet, make sure you have each university with what's the feel, how much have you sent the GRE and TOEFL scores to each one of them. Make sure you have the recommenders turned in their recommendations. Most of them will definitely forget. It's not their headache. It is your headache. It is your application. So you have to remind them. There is no excuse. You cannot put the blame on the recommender saying, oh, he forgot, oh, she forgot. No. So please do keep track of all of that. Make sure you are on top of the game. Just make sure everything has gone through, you have submitted. It is extremely important to know what is the deadline. Make sure you know the times in IST. Oh, and one important thing is Anushka actually reminded me about this. It's a very good point actually. Look out for early bird deadlines, especially in European universities. They have early bird deadlines in the sense, I think they open it for certain types of scholarships. So if you want to be eligible or apply for certain scholarship, you can apply a few months earlier than when they open it up for everybody to apply. So usually the websites are very clear about it. They tell the early bird deadline is on this date and this date. They don't really hide it or anything. So it's there, but you have to go and look at it and make sure you get it right and mark it on your calendar. These days you have Google Calendar, everything. Make sure you stay organized. Another part of this whole application portfolio, which doesn't really come under the filling the online application form, but is equally very crucial, is sending emails to prospective supervisors. Again, this Anushka is going to talk about it when she's going to present her work, her talk. So yeah, let's move on. Yeah, okay. Now that you've seen what you need for your application, I just wanted to go through a rough timeline. I think I'm not really sure what kind of crowd I'm talking to here, if you're already familiar with all these terminologies, but I'll just quickly go through it for someone who doesn't know. Usually, the North American or even European universities classify their terms as fall, winter, and summer. And the fall terms usually go from September to December. The winter is from January to April. And most universities open for admissions only in fall and winter, and more so in fall. So I'm going to talk about keeping that timeline in picture. Very few universities open for winter. Definitely, and one advantage which I've heard many people, especially when they come for the course-based masters, when they're not looking for a particular thesis work, what I've heard them say is it's better to get into the when everyone is in, like the fall cycle, so that when you have to really take up an internship later on in the summer, you are still with the crowd and you don't miss out on these big opportunities which might open up during that cycle. So that's something to keep in mind. And so if you're going to apply, if you're planning to join the program in say fall 2022, say that's the timeline, then your applications usually, your whole application cycle will be open somewhere from mid-November to January. So that's a whole window. Most application deadlines are for US universities end by December. Canadian universities go until I think Jan or mid-Feb. European universities also end somewhere between December to mid-Jan. So that's the window by which you have to have everything ready and for you to submit into your and send off your application. So which means you have to try and get your GRE and TOEFL test done at least a month in advance. So make sure you have your scores, you've done everything by say October. The latest is October. Do not delay it further than that. Another thing I wanted to point out here is two things. First thing is it's better to give the exam a little well in advance, because if some of you might be wondering, wanting to give a retry, say you want to take the exam again, make sure you have some space for that. And second thing is, try to give these, say if you're going to give GRE and TOEFL together, I mean, you're planning to give both of them, make sure you don't, you give them within very close to each other, because you would already geared up in that preparation for one exam, and you can keep the momentum going and give the next one also within the same whole cycle. Don't put it off for too long.
Suryavarshini,
Yeah.
can you please point out the month in which giving GRE will be optimum? Like, what is 1 month before? 1 month advance?
Oh, okay. 1 month advance before the application cycle starts. Like I said, mid-November is when usually the applications open up. So at least by October, they should definitely by beginning of October, they should be done, or at least mid-October, they should be done with. Uh, they should have the score at their hand. Essentially, that's what I
Okay,
mean.
okay. And
Yeah. So
given that we have CTs, then so is it beneficial to give exam like in July or June when they are free, or a bit before that?
oh, for sure. See, they can give it anytime they want. That's why I said about the giving the exam again also. So I know some of my classmates, if I remember right, they gave it in the end of the third year itself. They didn't even wait till their fourth year. They gave it right in the end of their like third year or even mid third year. So you can give it anytime you want, and based on like you can space up. If you say want to give it another shot, say you want to prepare for another 2 months and then give the exam again, you can do that too. But yeah, plan accordingly. Do not wait too late because it's just going to be so much more stress piling up. Get done with the exam as soon as possible. Because as we go through this, you'll see this is just one part of your application. There's so much more that you have to put together, and so many more things coming your way. Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just asking, what is a good score? Are you going to cover that? Uh,
No, I don't think there's anything like. I think I'll talk about it.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I'll come to that. Yeah.
because from fourth year point of view, we have this thing in mind, like what can be a good score. We always want to score as much as we can. So,
Yeah, I'll cover that. I have a slide. I'll come 2 minutes. Yeah. Um. Actually, oh, it's the next slide. Oh, okay. Thanks for that, Jay. Let me just talk about it now. So as for the good score thing, I think uh, it as far as this whole application academy is concerned, I don't think it plays like a deal breaker role. It totally depends on which university you're applying to, because whatever score you get, you can always find a university that takes in that score. That's one thing. And I wouldn't go so far as telling like this is probably a good score or a bad score, because um, how do I put it? So what I thought was a bad score, like according to my intention, I would have thought like say this is something 310 is a bad score. Same number out there. Um, but I also seen people who have had a stronger profile in other aspects and have actually gotten the program of wherever they wanted to go. So um, I think yeah, definitely if you like, you should aim for it's like any other exam, try to get as much as possible. Um, but I will shy away from actually putting a number on it or cap on it and saying that, you know what, the score and above you're safe, because that's not at all the case. Because even if you get a score of let's say 330, I've seen people getting rejected from universities where they wanted to apply, even though they were considered safe for that score. So it's really not a very straightforward number to put on. Maybe Anushka can chip in over here and say if she has anything more to add.
So when it comes to scores, I think, yeah, Surya is absolutely right. There is no cutoff because sometimes your applications, like all the other components, stand out than your score. So, I mean, I think in US and in other countries, European countries, they're well aware that when students are applying for graduate schools, these students don't probably have English as a first language. So, they're also looking for other aspects. It's not a deal breaker.
Yeah,
And it's from my personal experience, because I thought I got a low score and I will not get in, but that's not totally true. So yeah,
yeah,
I think there's not a bad score, but if you don't feel good about your score and want to retry, you can, but be careful about the number of trials you can give in GRE and how that affects, because the school you send in your score knows which attempt it is. So it's okay to just like feel it in the first and the second attempt. I think that should be fine. Just be confident about your rest of the application. I think you should not be too worried about it.
Yeah. Try not to like, yeah.
I'm sorry.
And one more thing. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So that I asked this question in the previous session also. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
if you are going to cover that. Let's suppose I have a less GPA, and being from chemical core, a GPA shows our intent to pursue masters in chemical itself. So will less GPA for me, less GPA is somewhere 7.5, as like if I look into our department. So do you think getting a higher GRE score will suffice for that? Will it show the intent?
No, definitely not. That's why GRE is not going to pull you out. Like say you get 340 and 340, and say you have 5 point GPA out of 10. It is not going to save you. It is definitely not. They're not just going to buy it.
Yeah.
GRE in most cases. So okay, imagine you get the admission committee say receives 1,000 applications. Okay, that's very low. I'm just giving a number. Say there's 1,000 applications for the first round for them to filter out. That's where GRE,
exactly.
GPA, all these things come in. So so I think they have like different set of files to look into. Like say first thing is you should cut off their eligibility criteria. Whatever they say is like some universities put a cap. So first of all you should be eligible in that criteria, and after that maybe they can divide into 2 or 3 categories where they're very good, very high, everything is great, and then the next pile. So it's really just a filtering criteria. I do think the GPA, your transcript speaks a lot in these applications. But here's my thing. If you say 7.5, so to continue on Jay's point, say if you think 7 or 7.5 is a low GPA, my point of view would be for my GPA, I would pick a suitable university. So let me be practical. So I would not say if you have a 7.5 GPA or something, you should not try for masters at all. That is not at all true. Choose your university wisely. Okay. So if you're going to aspire, if you're going to think about, so I think that is where you have to really get into the reality more, because this is something a little bit more also philosophical. Because I think in undergrad, there's so much pressure around you looking at which universities your peers are also applying to, and there's whole classification of ambitious, safe, and all this. But you have to be very smart over here in knowing where do you stand and just come to terms with it. You decide, okay, hey, like I have a 7.7, I'm a 7 pointer, I have 7 GPA. Let me look at universities where I'm likely to get in. Do not and put your money there, because that's something even I've highlighted over here. Prepare for it mentally and financially. See, financially, I'm not sure if all of you here would be able to afford the financial burden of applying to these universities. I will not lie, it is expensive. Every application is going to cost you $200. That's a lot of money coming from, I'm assuming in most of our cases, from our parents' pocket. So you have to be mindful of it, and also think about how you're going to spend it. At least it was a concern for me. So so you can always pick a university that is suitable for you. And at the end of the day, maybe in that, like when you're in your 4th year, people might be like, oh, that's not a great university. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because you will all be in your own path. There's nothing like a good university or a bad university. It's what you make out of it. So that's why I would also not, but between GPA and GRE, to come back to the point, definitely GPA is more important than GRE scores. Your GRE score is not going to save your, miraculously save your application and put you into the category. So that's something. And thanks, Jay, for bringing it up. I'm not sure if I answered the question properly, but maybe if the participants have so you must always also think about whether you'll actually get an exam slot. Because many times I know people actually plan it for like, hey, I'm going to give the exam in July, but may not end up getting an exam slot. So that's also something that you have to keep in mind and look for, like, that's something to think about. Yeah, now I think, yeah, now that I've spoken about this exams briefly, let me go into your writing your statement of purpose. Probably the most confusing piece of your application portfolio. I'm sure everyone has their own version of how to write an SOP, and you're probably getting loads of advice, and you've read probably multiple seniors SOP. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time over here and talk about this. So the whole purpose that we are talking about is a statement of purpose, which according to me is mostly to explain to the committee why you want to join the school and why you're choosing graduate studies in the first place. So like, so think of this component of your application as something where you can talk more about what you've already shown in other components. Say your transcript, your resume, um, your not really scores essentially. Say your transcript, resume. So you are actually building off from that. You're not really telling your life story here. You're basically trying to highlight whatever you have stored already in your story that you've presented in your resume, because there you're constrained for words. You cannot really ramble and talk a lot about things. Like, you cannot really explain what you actually did in your internship or what you actually did in that particular project. So this is the platform for you to explain that. So think of it that way. Do not think of it as a separate body of document. At least part of it is that. Most, like, I would say, like, the crux of it is you trying to uh, show to the committee who you are, like little more information, because they know nothing about you. So all you are for them is whatever you have given in that application that you have submitted. So this is your place to actually show what kind of person you are. But yeah, more on this point. Try to stick to only whatever you want to talk about to your college life, like post schooling. Do not start off from like when you were 4 years old, 3 years old. No, seriously, no one cares. No one gives a damn. Okay, because, like, know your audience. These are professors who are reviewing their who are in the committee and looking at your application. um most department websites are actually very clear, and they tell you what exactly they're looking for in your SOP. Use that, make use of it. Try to understand what do they really want. I actually have a very nice snippet from one of these websites, more about highlighting the stay clinical and know your audience point. So this is the University of California, Santa Barbara, where I was trying to apply for my PhD when I applied for PhD, and they actually have this whole FAQ section. I've put up the link over here. Um, where they actually tell, like, what should I write in my statement of purpose and all of this. So I've just taken a snip from the website. This was the part that really caught my eye. They how they specifically say, avoid autobiographical creative writing. Like, I know I've always loved science. Every time my dad got me my first robot or all those things. And this is actually, it was very shocking and surprising for me, because every SOP that I saw, I thought that's how you're supposed to write. You're actually writing, a piece of essay. But that's when it hit me, and this was when I was already in grad school, that most of these people are scientists and engineers who are reading a document. They are people who write research papers. So they want to see if you can do that. Like, put your point as clinically, as cleanly as possible. Do not ramble about, like, just keep it simple, grammatically correct, and, like, genuine. Whatever genuine is, don't make up stories. Like, if you have done that internship, tell what you've done, but tell that in a way that is meaningful. Like, can you really articulate, can you really bring to words what you experience? Like, okay, like when you saw something, okay, I saw a heat exchanger, but what was that whole experience like for you? That's what they want to know. It's in a way explaining your feelings, but not really in a way that is very, how do I say, That's where, that's more professional. Like I can give you an example. Actually, not an example. I wanted to mention this. Not just for this, for any of your documents, avoid using words like, really, very, and all these things. Because at the end of the day, they're actually very empty words if you think about it. I'm really passionate about this. Does not add any value to that statement. At least in this crowd which is reviewing your application, they don't like it. They think like that's what I mean by judicious use of words, how you want to tell your story. So think about all this, think about your SOP in those terms. At the end of the day, if you can actually put together, you don't have so many words also. Like if you think about it, if you have to really be clinical and talk about each thing, you should have enough number of words to tell your story completely. Like introduce yourself. You don't have, like, so what, this is what I mean, pertinent to your experience. You don't have to talk about your family and all those things. Talk about whatever is relevant over here. Oh, that reminds me, just one point I'll cover over here. I forgot to put it on the slide. Um, if you do think you belong to a marginalized community in India, or if you identify, say, with the LGBTQI community, make sure you mention that in your application. I am 100% sure nobody will really talk about this in college. And I don't think this is even, I would have laughed if someone had told me all these things. But trust me, these are all things which you will start to appreciate. It's a part of your identity, and you have to. This is a place where you can actually, if you're going to talk about it, it's going to be heard and it's going to be appreciated. So do make a note of that. I'm going to just take a
So,
small. Detour.
one thing on this LGBTQ, you are kind of giving an assurance that no one is going to talk about it during your college if you don't want to. So, let's suppose just to get into these universities, because these universities keep on looking for diversity. Can people fake it? Like if I just put it that I belong to this community.
Yeah, I think that's where the genuinity part
Okay.
comes. This is not really a place where you. I mean, I just mentioned it as because something which we don't generally do, or we might shy away from doing it, but it's not something that you should fake about. That's
Does it
just
So
help?
wrong.
I want to add here
Yeah.
this diversity thing. So this is very tricky. So they say to not lie in your applications because let's say there's a graduate committee like sitting and reviewing your applications. We have to be mindful that when we mention such things, they may take a second opinion from someone who is, head of such things in their university, and they'll be very good at recognizing what is like truth and like false, because someone who acknowledges something like this is also going to bring up a lot of supportive statements in like asserting that if they are going to say these things in their statement of purpose or resume or somewhere, they will be adding few more things to it. It's just not going to be a very small
One line, yeah.
Okay.
minor.
Yeah.
It won't be. So there are experts who can identify a fake application
Got it.
to a correct application. So try not to, just write it for the sake
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And another thing is, yeah, sorry,
and
go
this
ahead.
is
Jack,
for
sorry.
everything. Like it answers everything in your application. Ki don't try to cook up stories or anything.
Yeah. Because you must remember, there many times you might also have an interview following this. Say you get through the first round. Sometimes there might be professors who are interested in your work who might want to just talk with you, like just have a chat about this. You really can't just get out of it by lying through it. It's just, and you have to give these people some credit. They have been doing this for so many years now, and they are people who are actually smart. Most likely you have to give them some credit
Makes
for
sense.
that. I don't. Yeah, it's def. Or think of just like this, okay? Most of you over here, are probably in third or fourth years, and you say if you're in a club, you're hiring juniors or next set of batch into the club. Even you in your so many years of experience are able to, like, if a junior is, say, just, fought it, I guess some level of, I don't know, you have developed a sense of understanding or like, judging. Uh, just extrapolate the same thing over here. So I don't really think you can get away by talking bullshit. Yeah. um so yeah, so actually, yeah, so to continue this, I just wanted to talk a little bit about preparing your SOP specifically for thesis based programs, especially like say the doctoral program, because here your SOP becomes much more critical to your application. Because like I'm just comparing it between say a program which is like solely course based and it is not funded, say if that's the case, their SOP's value versus say for a thesis based program like a doctoral program or even a master's program which is thesis based, it becomes so much more critical. Because in addition to all the things I mentioned earlier, like a research experience, your internship, in addition to all of that, here you have to definitely talk about your the research topics or the fields that you're interested in, and definitely on your at least touch upon the kind of prospective supervisors or prospective kind of labs that you want to work in. This should form. And I think Anushka might have, when she's talking, she might have much more detailed insight into this because she did apply for a PhD program directly. So I believe that that forms a very crucial part of your SOP, but in this particular category. So do keep that in mind. I think I've kind of come to the closing part of my part. So I just wanted to just touch about what do people usually do after they finish this graduate degree. I'm just going to stick to maybe masters for now. So I've seen a lot of people, actually even doctor actually, move into finding a job even after finishing a PhD. They were just like, okay, I'm done with academia. Let me go look for a job. And you'll be surprised. Many times this job is not just in core fields. Many of them actually move on into non-core kind of jobs, like how Jay, they were talking about data analytics earlier. I know some people who have actually moved into that field too. So it's really kind of very broad. But I think just like any other job hunting happens in any of these foreign nations or like in abroad, it happens a lot through networking. Maybe sometimes some universities have career fairs, and I must make it very clear it's not a straightforward process. It's long, tedious, and you have to be mentally prepared for it, and you have to like really work for it. I'm just contrasting that's something which I'm not sure if all of you realize. You have no concept of campus placements in most universities here. People don't come knocking at your door and sitting down with you and having an interview or doing exams with you. That does not happen in most cases. You go knocking at the door asking for a job. That's how it happens most cases. That's when networking, having a solid online presence, like say through LinkedIn, all these things become crucial. That's a whole different topic. I don't think this top where we want to talk more so much about it. It's more about the initial part of applying to it. Another great way which I have followed and I am all pumped up about is to continue in academia. I've seen people move into the doctoral program, and from there it's like to postdoc and so many things. So that's definitely a route to take. And this is also kind of the time when people start thinking about whether they want to settle down here or move back to India and all those things. And very interestingly, some people take a break after if paying off your loan is not really that big of a problem for you. That's usually also an option. So that's it from my end. I'm just going to resolve the questions after Anushka talks, and then we'll both take the questions together. Let me just quickly stop sharing. Yeah, that's it. How much time did it take? Oh my god, that's a lot. Sorry, Anushka, I'm so sorry. I think you go ahead.
No big deal. Yeah, my slides are short, and so
Pranav
let
is
me
giving you
know.
clap, Suryavarshi.
Yeah, it was excellent. Let me know if you guys are coming up on my screen also, just like Surya asked in the beginning. Are you like covering my slides here?
Yeah.
Good?
Stick to the
Okay.
plan.
Right. So I just put up this slide because I knew I was going to waste some time in the beginning. So hi guys, I'm Anushka Mishra, and I just posted my LinkedIn link URL on the chat, and I'm surprised to see how many people are actually active. And I hope everyone's listening to today's discussion, because I guess years from now, maybe months from now, you will want to come back to this and think, what did they say and what did we miss? So anyway, I'll just give a brief intro about myself. I'm currently a PhD grad student at WashU in St. Louis. I, along with all of people here, seniors, Jay and Surya, was graduated with a BTech in chemical engineering from NIT Trichy, and now that I'm here, I'm very proud to have done that. So you guys are doing very good till now. And then I am currently in energy, environmental, and chemical engineering, and this is very important because I deviated from core chemical, and I'll talk more about this when I discuss in detail. Um, and since some more information, if you try to look me up, I'm doing more environmental engineering based studies, working with water and all that. So that's my research. And so the whole conversation today is about grad school applications to admits, and I wouldn't say I will nail this, but I did get one or two, just like I think others got. So the key term here is being proactive. And so I know everyone is competitive and they don't say it, but then if you're competitive, just be very proactive. Make sure you're on top of everything. If you're in your third year, it's time to start deciding what you want to do, because I think it's just not about research or grad schools. It's also about if you want a job, if you don't want a job. And I'm sure you guys heard already before, but you need to start thinking around third year, because then you decide what you want to do next, right? 2 year prep is a big time and enough time for you to make a decision on what you want. So we've covered the requirements. I'm not going to go over this again and again, but language proficiency test, statement of purpose, LOR, I will discuss a little bit, curriculum vitae, I will again discuss, transcripts. So the order here is in no particular order, actually. Just make sure that everything is genuine, and there's a reason for it, because they are going to check in some way. So let's say you have somehow managed to get fake uh, cards for all of these. So there, in some colleges, you do have language proficiency test after you get in. So they will make you take a short exam again. And that's not for sending you back to India, but it's more like they will then advise you to take some English courses. So let's say if you said you got a very good score and you're not able to cross the test, there's going to be some red, signs up, red flags on your application. So be very, very genuine. Statement of purpose, this matters because when you're, and this even if it's not thesis or thesis based courses, there are going to be things that will come up, and you cannot just go on writing something like you're interested but then have no knowledge about it. Then it's going to fall through. There's going to be cracks. Yeah, the letter of recommendation and curriculum vitae, I'll just come in a minute to that point, and then we come to transcripts. So you have no control over your transcripts, because I think if you're in your third year, you have built up already something, yeah. And grades, okay. So it's important to get some good GPA. I'm not saying the topmost GPA, because so far you've already scored half of it. But if you think that you want to apply for a grad school, you want to get into a very good college, start working hard now. I would like to say that, because at this moment you might feel it's, why is she saying that? But maybe later you'll be like, I should have just put in much effort in the last 4 semesters that I have. You can try. But that being said, it's not the only criteria on which you'll be judged. Okay, so let's see. I want to first talk about the curriculum vitae. Then I'll come to LOR and many other things. I think I don't have a slide for LOR, but I can just go through it. So letter of recommendation. So if you're applying for a thesis-based program, so in my case, again, I was thinking maybe too way ahead in time. I wanted to do research, and I was pretty sure that even after masters, I wanted to go further in research. So there was just one way about it: go to PhD. A, because they give you a stipend, and you don't have to get a loan for that. B, I mean, if you already made your mind, you can try. There are many programs in the United States, Canada, European countries, even in Singapore, that offer you these programs where you can directly apply for PhD. NIT Trichy is recognized in many universities, so don't hesitate to apply. Don't feel like your peers in IIT are doing better. Trust me, that's not the case. And yeah, make up your mind. It's no hard deal. Like, if you, even if you're trying to get an MS and then you want to make a decision, that is totally fine. So it's up to you. Now, having said that, you need to, no matter what it is, I think if you're trying to apply to grad school and you want to get into a good grad school, or you're thinking that you want to do some research under a particular professor, you figured that they are the ones you want to get into their labs, and they will get you a good position later in any job or academics. You need to start thinking a little ahead in time. Think about what are the research or research interest in broad, like in chemical engineering, what all broad things are there that you can do some get some experiences, and that can be internships. So third year, that's why I said use your summer very wisely, your winters very wisely. Try to get any kind of summer internship experience that you can. Make sure that that professor, whoever you worked with, or even if a company like you worked with, make sure someone there can write you a letter of recommendation. And this is where letter of recommendation becomes very important, because in your statement of purpose, the moment you mention about some research experience and you don't have an LOR from them, it is more shaky, because I mean, they could easily ask any of them, has certain student worked in your, and in India, there's just a big population, there's very big chance that 90% of the building doesn't even know you. So make sure that one person gives you an LOR that matters the most, and then brag about it in your SOP, because that helps, really, really, really helps. So in LOR, make sure, and I think many professors do this, they ask you to write the LOR, send it to them, and then they put it on their letterhead and sign it. So if you're going to write your LOR, make sure you be very genuine. Try to make it. So if I'm the professor, I want to say Suryavarshini is, I could go this way. I can say Suryavarshini is an excellent student. She's very active in the lab. She is very fluent in communicating her research needs, blah, blah, blah. This is all good, but you have to be very, very specific also. Now we can change these 3 sentences. We can say, Suryavarshini has a very good grasp of mass transfer knowledge. She is very active in lab. She has, so in this is just the first part of the sentence. She has completed a research task in 4 weeks, which was about so and so. This is what active means. And then the third sentence was, I forget what I said, but
I think you said something nice about me. I can speak well. Yeah.
Yeah. So
communicate fluently.
Exactly. So you can say that she was very clear in letting know what she wanted to, what her goals were to the end of the research, even if that means she wanted to write a paper out of it, or she wanted to put this into some platform, because ultimately scientific platforms matter, where how you communicate your scientific research. Let's say, even if not that, she was very clear in saying that I want to learn how these certain laboratory skills are used, and what are more things that I can do. You have to make it very, very specific.
Even lab reports are great. If you like, if there's a professor with who, like, small details matter a lot. If they can tell that your lab reports are very concise and accurate, and you could communicate your results well, that matters. Right. That those small things matter.
So if someone writes an LOR saying Anushka is a great chemical engineering, that has no value, because chemical engineering is so wide. You have so many subjects in your own each semester, right? So be very specific about what is that one thing. So you will know what is that one thing, because in your statement of purpose, you're trying to write the very, very specific research interest that you have. So make it very, very specific. And this is applicable for all kind of grad applications. Your LORs just will fall through if you make it very blunt. And even professors here do this, so they know when you have those light LORs coming through, and there's no weightage. Having said that, I don't have an example of LOR, but proofread it. Get it proofread by your professors, by others, seniors, anyone you can. Definitely do that. Really, really, really helps. Okay, moving to curriculum vitae, and this is important because as Suryavarshini said, that you can have GRE score and there's no cutoff to it, but let's admit it, the top schools, they would like to have a very high GRE score, but with that they also want your application to stand out, right? And there are two ways to go about this. Excellent statement of purpose. And when I say excellent, your interests should come through very clearly. That's what I mean by excellent. You don't, and make sure that your statement of purpose is not repeating everything you had in your resume. Keep it very focused to what the program needs were, and you just write that down. Don't start writing your GPA is this much, or in your 10th class you got this much, or your all India rank was this much. No one cares about that. It's in your resume. They will read it if they want to. So make sure that you don't repeat things. There are different, that's why they ask you to submit so many things, right? They're asking you to submit your language proficiency test. They're asking you to submit your SOP, LOR, curriculum vitae, because they're going to see that in different sections. So statement of purpose is your purpose. Why do you want to go into that school? It will vary school to school, which particular field you're interested. You can also write what you what you want to do 5 years from now. It's nice to show that you're thinking also ahead in time. And it doesn't hurt if you're trying to tell a grad school that you want to get into a company which does research in this and this. Totally fine, because it takes some guts to write this. So it's totally fine if you do that, okay? So I'm going to just talk about curriculum vitae here, because do not ignore it. It matters, and it matters because it's the shortest file on your application that you submit. So statement of purpose can be 1 to 2 pages, sometimes 3 pages. Don't go beyond that. But statement of purpose is like an essay, so they have to read through it. But resume is going to be all bullet points, and that's the easiest to read, where people will also skip things. So I'll just show you how it should look like and what things you should have in it. So I'm saying it as a CV, but keep it short as a resume, 2 pages, because for grad applications, the committee is not going to spend the whole day looking at your resume. And trust me, you don't have so much, being an undergrad, you don't have so much to put on your resume to make it look like a CV. And I say this because if you go to my professor's website, his CV is 20 pages long. And starting from the 2nd page, he has all his publications. So you know what I'm trying to say, just keep it short and make sure that it's very, very precise. So, and these points are very important. So that's why we have some slides for you guys. Like, I know if you try to take a screenshot, this is the most helpful thing up here. Have your area of expertise, your education, qualifications, professional research experience can follow any. This order is also important, but you can also interchange the order and then have your skills. Skill set is going to be the most important thing, because let's say you have some skills that the other person has not even mentioned and the professor has not personally interviewed you yet, but they're going to just move your application to the top as a preference. So it helps you, it boosts your application compared to others. So I'm going to just show you how my CV looks like. Maybe, let's see here. So I have omitted some items here, like my phone number and Gmail ID. I'm not going to show that to you. But so this is something I learned in my 3rd year. My senior, not from here, from Stanford, shared her resume with me, and I looked at mine, and mine was pathetic. So I changed. In your resume, your name should be very clear. In your first line here, you can have your address, your Google Scholar, or your LinkedIn profile, any profile that you have that actually highlights your professional background. Go ahead and put it. That's the one line you get to add any personal website information that you want to have, only that uplifts your resume, okay? Nothing nonsense. And then when I say area of expertise, this is important because I wanted to deviate from my field, but let's say you want to stay core to chemical engineering, just pick subjects inside chemical engineering that you like most, okay? I kept some subjects to the end, and I'm glad I'm not in them, because if someone asks me, I'm not really good at it. So it just, you want to cover all your bases. So just have either like chemical reaction engineering works best for me, because then I can explain something about it. And also don't put things that you don't know about. It's all right if you don't know about everything. Your CG is going to show that it's okay. But yeah, make sure small headers. Education, simply your CGPA, your college, nothing inside. You don't have to say you're head of something or you have a social committee that you're part of, nothing. Even I was the, I was the alchemy president, but I'm not gonna write that in my education qualifications, okay? Make sure that that happens, does not happen. Additional qualification here. Now, this, I want to say that if you're going to write your AIR, it's not going to help. I wrote that and turns out it doesn't help. But what helps is if you have other degrees. Now that you're in your COVID time and you've got some other certificates online, this is the place where you add. Okay, let's say someone did a data science course from Coursera or something. This is where you add it in your resume that you did so and so. And don't write that in your statement of purpose. But resume is the place where you go and add those things. It's a very long list of professional and project work because I wanted to really highlight my research. Doctoral programs are not easy. So just for me, research was the most important thing. But for you, I think professional experience will cover most of it. All right, so don't worry about it. This is very specific to me, have it specific to you. But I think just take a little bit from the template. All important things in bold, less important things in normal because they will not read it. All LOR people should be on your resume, just to be like making it sure. Something that you can then go on adding is laboratory skills. I said this is very important, and I've been very genuine here because someone asks me, I have to at least know 5 lines about it. That makes sense, okay? And something that I've blacked out here and was total bullshit is extracurricular activities. It does not matter, okay? It does not matter at all. So let's say even if you're trying for MS in non-thesis subjects, extracurricular will help only you have achieved some award or trophy. And like my friends who've got into good colleges for non-thesis based, they are actually national level players in certain games, so they put it. Otherwise these things do not have any weightage to your application. So just this is my fault, don't repeat it. Okay, so
can I sorry Anushka, can I just make a quick point over here?
Yep.
This is the place where you could probably add your, if you've done any volunteer work or any mentoring or any kind of volunteer work, this is the place that you can possibly put it. Like genuine, like, or like not just I was a part of NSS. Like if you actually did something, this is where it would probably go.
Even
because
NCC, all of those things. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They actually value some trainings. For example, we had Indian Red Cross Society training. These are all things they value, but do they go in the beginning of your CV or later? Depends on what other things can take priority. Let's say I tried a lot to get publications during my undergrad. I was little delayed in that, but I made sure my LORs reflected that I was trying to do it. If I had that, that would go on the top. So things, just wait out, ask someone to like just see and tell me what you find most interesting in this, or what do you think sounds super cool. Even you can ask your parents. So then you do get an idea of what seems like, could be the most important thing. I'm sure.
Sorry. Yeah, no, sorry, finish. Dia just asked a question over here, which I thought we can probably take up right now since we're in the middle of this discussion. They want to know, is it advisable to hire a consultant who can help us with our SOP or LOR? I think this is something which many people talk. Maybe, yeah. What do you think about it, Anushka?
See, I think fine. I wouldn't say no because I have no experience in this, but I did take a help of a senior alumni. Like, for example, I'm sharing you with me. This is all the kind of help. If you're going to pay to do this, you're probably not up for it because this is not a one-day thing. You have to keep doing this throughout your degree because you'll be then applying for jobs and everything. Maybe the best thing I would recommend for you to is learn how to do it and then not mention that you paid for a service to do this, because I don't think it's going to be very positive towards your application. Like also personally, I think you'll feel very
You have to learn it at
bland.
some point or other.
Exactly.
But I think, yeah, like to actually piggyback on like continue on Anushka's point. The point here is, how do I put this? Yeah, most of these consultants, at least from what I've seen, it has happened to some of my friends who applied after, like, after they graduate and all. It's like an industry. It's like they know best what they've seen the most. It's
Mm.
hard for them to customize something for your purpose.
Right.
Like, it is something
That's
which
right.
they're like, okay, you okay, do you have checklist, you have this, okay, let me make something for you. But I think sometimes you have to actually customize your CV or your resume based on what you have, what kind of program you're applying to. Those kind of things sometimes might get lost in these consultants when you go and approach a consultant.
Right.
And another thing is, it's all about, like, I would personally be like, oh, I have to pay for this, but say you can even afford that money. um I don't think you get a lot out of the service that you're asking for. Not more than what you would probably get from, say, talking to someone who's been around in this setting for probably 2 or 3 years.
Right.
Might still be able to give you a better insight than what you might get from a consultant. That's what at least my point is. Like, definitely money is one thing, but even if you say afford it, you can go for it. I don't think you're getting enough value for your buck. That's what is my, at least from what I've seen happen to some of my friends.
Right.
Like, the insights weren't very pointed or good. But
Yeah.
yeah, at the end of the day, it's your call. If you feel like you want someone to look into it, you don't know anybody who's there like that, I think it's up to you.
I also think something you can do here is just make a resume, and that's why I say start early and just send it to someone or your seniors. And sometimes what happens is they're going to just tell you not to disturb them by sending all this, but some are really going to maybe open and see if they know you or not, and may actually have some comments to or feedback to give you. For example, us here would have appreciated if and I point this because many of you did send LinkedIn connections, but here's the thing: you could add more value by sending other things, and you never know. Someone takes a look at it and can actually give you some, feedback. So don't hesitate. I think the main point of all this SOP and LOR CV is to just try to share, because if you're more open to sharing it, that means you actually have something right in it. And if you feel hesitant, then maybe you should review your CV. Yeah, but Surya has an excellent point. If you want to get a second opinion, second help, definitely do that. Okay, I'm going to go away from the screen. Let's see. We covered most of the points. Just keep it very short. Do not exceed 2 pages. Um, it's very tiresome. I remember my advisor was holding a paper back in front and back. That was my resume, and he was looking the second page of my resume because that had my research experience and skill set. Similarly, based on which program you're applying, accordingly they'll be flipping your page. 3 page, they probably won't print it out. Okay, the process here, and I don't know if I missed anything. And please start putting your questions in the chat because then you'll remember what you had in mind. The process varies from person to person. Me, I was looking for something very different. You don't have to have publications for MS thesis based. No, people try to get publications during their MS, or if even if they want to do research. Otherwise, it's totally optional. I didn't have when I was applying. I still got into it. So other things matter, like you can start emailing professors in the university, and I'll show you how your email should look like, but that's not the only example. But be very courteous and professional in your emails. If you want to hear back something from them, do not start writing your big stories in your email. It's not going to get read by anyone. Also, start the process early. Yeah, Surya has covered all these points, deadlines, the processes, what programs and schools are looking for. Have some ambitious, moderate, and safe schools. It's good to do this because you will always wonder if you could have gotten somewhere that you never applied. So you can do that, definitely. I just want to show you how pre-app emails should look like, or at least I learned from some of my seniors. And again, I have blurted out some of the details here, but this email actually got me a response and I'm very happy about it. So I kept it all bullet wise. You can also keep it short sentences, 2 to 3 sentences if you have really, really solid statements to make. I had many research I wanted to write, so I made it 1 line with 10 words, each research this thing. So keep it very succinct. You can also attach your resume and transcript and make the names of these things very short, because if it reads A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, no one's gonna download it. It's probably going to go into a spam folder. So make the names also look very professional when you're trying to send anything. And the timings, remember the time zones. The earlier the email you send in the day, the more you have the chance of hearing back from them. Don't send in the night. They don't appreciate it. It's not professional at all. Don't send in the weekends. It's not professional at all. Yeah, just follow this. Again, so this is it. And I think something I wanted to touch upon very quickly, and then we can open it to questions, is how do you find the right programs to school? And this comes up in this particular order. And I want to say that I know the non-core people already talked about it. Ranking matters because ranking tells you which school is on the top. But what it doesn't tell you is which program is on the top. So at WashU, I did not know that the space program is so good that people actually get hired to NASA from this college. But it doesn't show up in QS ranking when you search. So if you're trying to apply for a department, actually go and check their website. They have some news section inside the department which actually tells more about the department. It's helpful. I know there are millions of colleges. You can help use ranking to start off, but I'm pretty sure you want to align your interests. And interest can be very broad. You don't want to do chemical engineering, this is the right time to start thinking about what other things you can do. And I have some friends who've done biomedical engineering successfully and other fields of engineering, even moved to, I think, management and all that. So good time to start thinking about your interest. Professors in the department, this is for thesis-based option. Otherwise, I think mostly you need to talk a little bit more about your professional experiences if you're just applying for non-thesis based. And I'm not the best person to talk about this. But, contact your alumni. You can never not get any value from this. Reach out to all your alumni. At least 1% will help you, will be willing to help you. So definitely do that. Then again, remember that there are heavy student loans when you apply for programs. So try to look for scholarships, try to look for exchange programs, and there are some out there. You can also look for some scholarships that you can apply after you get into, so you can have some monetary benefit. Me personally, I was really also interested in PhD because then I don't have loans. I get stipend to work and do research. So things like that matters. Just keep an eye over it. Something also I want to explain that there are some programs which can be both degrees, MS and PhD. And sometimes people go for that and get their MS and choose to drop out. You can totally do that if that's what you want. But there are some programs that you can also apply like that, and just keep searching. Everything is on their website. I definitely think if you're not able to find something, you start looking somewhere else. That would be my advice. Career opportunities. This is a difficult one to find. Let's say you want to get into Intel after you did your MS in electrical engineering. How will you know this unless you actually go into LinkedIn and see someone who has graduated from that university? Or how you can look at your alumni where they are right now. Or you can also look into the professor's website there always is a link to a website or some information where you can see where their students are placed. So you can choose programs based on this. This can help. And again, I'm doing PhD, but I can also easily go into R&D of a company. So all these things can help you, and they're just not specific to what kind of program you want. But career opportunities will be a difficult one. But if you want to really want to choose based on that, start early. You will need a lot of time. So do that. Yep, and this is my last slide. So right now is a good time for you guys to ask questions. A
Yeah,
lot of
we have been
questions.
we have been getting some questions. I don't want to like cut you across except for
Right.
that one.
Awesome.
So let me go in the order in which it came. I think
And just one thing I want to add is, can we share these two presentations, because these had a lot of specific information which is required while MS, like because it's a very comprehensive process. Non-core, it's a bit more open than core, doing MS in core subjects. So
yeah,
these
sure,
presentations
for
can
sure.
be,
Yeah, but I'm not going to share my resume
yeah.
or email here
Remove
again.
that slides. No?
But I will remove the slides. But I want to also tell that if someone really wants to get some feedback from me, they can email me. Again, find my email. So if you can do that, you're being successful in your searching process. But yeah, I post the email here. But do send me your emails. I can help you get some feedback. If I know some professors that could be helpful for you to interact with, maybe I can send you their links. Yeah, but I won't. I omit those slides.
Yeah, even I'm complete. I can maybe add some more links that might be useful for them, just so I can maybe put a slide with all those links and then we can share it with them. Actually, yeah, like good point that Anushka made about reaching out. For sure, people, the best way to look for them is through LinkedIn. But I must make one point. This is just a general trend. I feel like many people in this setting, like usually in universities, don't really have a very strong LinkedIn presence. They don't really check the LinkedIn frequently, or like, they don't really update it as frequently. It's not as important as it is there when you're, say, looking for a job or say in the industrial setup. So, so the only reason I'm saying this is if somebody does not respond to you as quickly as you want them to, just try to reach out to them to their university email or something like that. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But yeah, let's just yeah, you can see in the chat we have some questions over here. I think a couple of them are kind of similar. I think they want us to go over the tuition fees and overall expenses for masters, and how it was the best way to go financially for grad school. Do you want to take it, or shall I talk about it a bit?
I think I'm not the best person to talk about the tuition fees. Yeah, the grad applications are expensive, but then it's relative. So
yeah. So the tuition fees, most universities provide you the tuition fees. I think one, HP Bansal asked specifically for the US. So these fees also change based on whether they are private institutes or state universities. Again, a lot of things go into place. So when you're going to check the website for the fees, you need to look under tuition fees and under international category, because they usually have two types of fees. One is for the domestic students, another one is for international students. And some another thing which can be a little confusing. I think these websites are usually confusing when it comes to these tuition fees category, because some of them give it per term, some of them give it per year, some of them give it per course or per credit. Nikhil, I think I'm not able to. I think your mic is turned on. Was it intentional? Mic. Oh, Nikhil, can you please switch off your mic if yours was not intentional? Yeah. So what is it saying? Yeah. So usually to give you a sorry. Go ahead, Krishka.
No. Yeah, I just was adding to what you were saying. Also, just to be like, not to waste your time. Maybe the information for loan or all these will not be available directly on the program you're looking for. So maybe those two things could be exclusive. So you may want to look up how to get those kind of financial these things
Yeah,
through
yeah,
other sources also.
yeah, that's the point. So the fees usually range. Should I give a number on this? I don't know. So it depends on the. Okay, so why I'm saying it depends on the university is if you're going to say an Ivy League university or something like that, their fees is going to be much higher. If it's going to be a private institute like say CMU or something like that, their tuition fee is going to be like really like probably definitely higher than what you would have in a public university or a state university. This is for sure. Like most places in US, that's just the case. And it's the same thing even in Canada over here. Like it's not just about private or state university here. So U of T's or like the University of Toronto, where I'm from, its fees, tuition fees, almost 1.5 times, and some programs even 2 times higher than University of Ottawa's tuition fee. So some of your friends just straight off told, okay, I can't really afford this. I'm not going to apply to U of T. So so I was somebody for whom financial concerns were a big deal. I really made my choices, even my choice about how many universities I'm going to apply to. I didn't have infinite amount of money. I know each application is going to cost me like 10,000 to 15,000 rupees. That's a lot of money that's going to come in. So I chose the number of colleges that I want to apply to. Like, okay, I'm going to apply to 7 universities. Even that was based on a very purely financial consideration. So yeah, it's a good question that you brought up. This is again very university specific. So I think along with tuition, you should also consider your living expenses. Say if you're not going to get a stipend, if you're not going to get paid for you to do a program, which is what happens in most cases when you're in a course-based program, then you have to think about your what you're going to do for your food and living. What I know many students do is they come here and then they look for part-time job opportunities. By part-time job opportunities, I mean like kind of things that you can probably work in a store, or there are many opportunities that way. They're pretty easy to get, especially for international students. They are almost curated for international students. Um, so those part-time job opportunities are if you're frugal, you can manage with that and manage your living expenses. But the tuition still has to come out of your pocket, either from your personal pocket or by getting a student or an educational loan. And many students usually try to get into a job as soon as they finish their program to pay off the loans that they have taken. So so to get more details about this, since some of these things keep changing from bank to bank and from university to university, the best way to go about it is probably to reach out to somebody in that university who has either just graduated and I know has gotten a job or something like that, and ask them if they can either talk to you directly or put you in touch with somebody else who can help you out with this process for that university. So that's, I think, I'm not sure if we answered your question properly, but yeah. Is it advisable? We got that. There's one more question. Yeah. Is a strong interest in lab or lab research necessary for MS programs? Anshul, Vishal, I'm assuming you mean by MS programs like something which is not thesis based, like just course based. So in that case, I don't think a strong lab or lab research is necessary. No, it is not necessary. In that case, the selection happens mainly because through your transcript and probably some of your scores and all of that, your CV and all of that. So that's where most of your selection process happens. I don't think you have to really write to any professor about your lab research and all of that. That does not apply in this case. What is ideally expected from students applying? Oh, I think Anushka is the best person to answer this.
The answer is research. They really want you to be research minded. That's all they expect from you when you want to apply for a direct PhD after undergrad. Because when you join college, within 6 months, they will assign you a lab. Even immediately, they'll probably assign you a lab and ask you to start doing some research. And sometimes people may think that we don't have the skills, so don't worry about it. They always train you to do some things. But research, and also inquisitiveness. Like you should be a little curious about the things. Some say that professors, we look at some professors and we go like, they're doing this is very good. But if you don't have a question for them, then they seem to be more like you're taking passively. So be a little active in asking questions, and definitely research. But that's the thing. So there's sometimes it is very tricky. Some of these PhD programs can be a dual thing, like which is in my case, where I can get an MS early in my PhD program and choose to opt out of the degree. That happens, and no one can stop you from doing that. If you want to go that way, take a risk, and if you start liking to do the research, that's fine. But you should remember, when you try to choose such programs, research will still be expected from you. And yeah, a little active curiosity helps.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. One, if you have one takeaway from what is expected of a PhD student, I think more than you having the knowledge prior hand, I think that is not really what people want. Even if if you're not like the best at, the topper in the class or something, that is not what at all what people look for in here. It's your willingness to learn something. I think perseverance, I think, is definitely important. So if you can in some way highlight those qualities in you, or whatever work you've done, if your recommendation letters support that attitude, I think that's extremely important. Yeah.
And I think something we've all tried doing is try to do an internship. And sometimes we don't get successfully to do an internship in another university. So what you can do is, even for thesis-based programs, this is very, very helpful. Approach to your lab in your department. There are very good professors that we have worked with, and it's okay if you don't have an outcome out of it, but at least you can say that you've tried doing some research, you've shown the interest to do some research in your own department. That actually adds some feathers to your CV. Yeah. So definitely you can try in your college.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. It reminds me, I actually did my projects with College Selvi ma'am, and she was actually sweet. She actually wrote me some recommendation letters, even after I graduated. So so you can make use of those things. I think at the end of the day, more than what kind of work you have done, what is more important is how you did it, whether you what you got out of it, what the person in the team got out of it. If you can bring all those things out, that's great. Because no, come on, you're not fooling anybody. In 3 months, you're not going to publish a high impact paper. Everybody knows that. If you have been playing this game for even a couple of years, you really understand that. Okay, in 3 months, you really can't do some, mind blowing thing. But you just, your 3 months, it's your time that you spent on the research. Somebody was there training you. What did you gain out of it? If you can talk about it clearly, if you can bring out that is what really matters to people. So yeah.
And also, if you think, because we've had some experience, I don't know how 2016 is different from 2021. The professors may not seem to be making sense, but approach the lab. The students working there will make much more sense. You'll start understanding why this professor is in this department, and they are doing some research which is very different from your undergrad courses. So don't hesitate. I mean, they might seem very, there's a concrete wall between you and professors, but they actually appreciate you reaching out and asking what research is done in your group and would like to explore. It's a good starting point. I would encourage you to do that. Yeah. And do it for some long amount of time, just not for like a month and just drop it. Try for at least half of the semester, full semester. Just then you can decide what you want to do.
I think we kind of we planned for 20 and 50 minutes of questions. It just went out of the window. Sorry about that. But yeah, please post the questions over here. Even if we run out of time, we can probably send to a chat or something like that.
Actually, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Can I ask? Yeah. So actually, you're pursuing your PhD degree, right? So just after your master's.
Sorry?
You're pursuing your PhD currently after your master's, right?
Oh, you're asking me? Yeah.
So let's assume there is another person who's pursuing his PhD just after completing his BTech. So you will have another perspective on the project you're working, and the other one will be having some other perspective. So can you just differentiate between these two? The pros and cons.
So maybe I can talk about this. So my master's was a thesis-based master's. So I did actually get into a research environment. So it was kind of like a short-term PhD. Like that was how my program here is designed. So I think only thing I can tell in terms of perspective is I think the person knows how to play this game better. You be around, you just know what to do and what not to do. I think just in terms of maturity, I think that is probably the only change I can think of, because like all this knowledge is cumulative, right? Like you start a master's, you still don't know much. As you come from BTech and start a PhD, you still don't know much. So you learn over the years. It's all just cumulative. But the learning curve becomes is initially very steep, and then you start to pick up things very quickly. So that kind of might give you an edge, but I don't. Yeah. Yes, Anushka. Yeah.
Not to put pressure on Surya, but there is also one more advantage to this. So when I applied for a PhD directly after, I applied to this program, which is a 5-year long program. So tentative to graduate sometime. When you're in masters and then you apply for the PhD, the benefit is you graduate earlier because they think you have some expertise gained in that 2 years you spend doing your masters. So there is this advantage of convincing your professor that, hey, I'm done with my research in 4 years, so 3 years, and I'm going to go out. That is a little bit edge, but that's saying people still do it for 5 years. It's not a taboo, but that is one edge I think that people have when going from masters to PhD than going from BTech to PhD.
Also, I must mention this. Many universities actually have this program where you don't really have to finish your master's degree. Even midway through your master's, you can fast track the master's into a PhD. So you might have entered into a master's program, but it should be a thesis-based master's. I must clarify that. Midway, I think somewhere in the first year, when you finish your first year of master's, you can transition that into your PhD.
Yeah, be very proactive about it.
Yeah. And here it's all about the dynamics that you have with your supervisor. If your supervisor is like, yes, I know you, I believe you, go ahead. Let me put together a committee. That happens all the time. So I think that might be something to I think otherwise I think this year is definitely a point, but I think it's just about you might become wiser in choosing your project. Though in my case I continue to the same lab, so it's a different point, but I'm just saying.
Sometimes as you go to MS and you realize, oh, this is a big flop idea of doing research, that's when you start thinking about the next steps. But having said that, some people really gain interest in research and they're like, I don't want to spend another 2 years dragging this, I may just want to convert it. So look out for those things that the schools help you find that information.
Yeah, actually about this quitting also, I've seen many people who have gotten into a PhD program all the way into their 4th year or like 3rd year and they just suddenly quit. They're like, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. Done with academia. They're like, let me get a job. I want to earn some more money.
And also to add here,
one thing I want to say about people in corporate, I have at least 30% of my friends who want to go to academia. Matlab, I don't want corporate pressure. I just want to settle down. I want a stable life. I don't want all that.
Some very bonus things about choosing to go into academia. You're your own boss.
Yeah.
You are going to lead.
100%. That's
your students are going to follow you.
Yeah.
That is another kind of and people who like to preach, then they get to teach. Again, there's no pressure, but I'm just saying there's some perks you do get when you start to realize the benefits. Having said that, it's not everyone's cup of tea, so keep exploring.
Shubham Patel here has a question. Oh, what kind of roles can you target after a master's or PhD? You mean
There's
like job roles? Sorry. Okay, let me first take Dia's question. For thesis-based masters, how many published papers are needed? You don't even need one, honestly.
But also this is a good question to ask your advisor.
Yeah.
You know, because there is no cap to this, like whatever they think is good.
So let me clarify. Are you asking like for applying to that program, or are you asking when you finish? I think he's asking when you apply to the program. I think when you're applying to the program, if that's what you wanted, I don't think you have to have any publications.
No,
Yeah, I think that it's not at all necessary.
it's a relative thing. I mean, I want to cut you here because see, masters you don't need it. PhD I didn't have, but when people have publications, they get into better tier colleges, and I'm not lying.
That is there for sure, but I think it's not a deal breaker if you don't have a publication. It's not like if you don't have a publication, I can't apply. So that's what I used to think. Like I didn't have a publication, and I was so hesitant to apply for a direct PhD program. I have nothing to show, but I think most people understand because it's not just about a paper. Getting a paper published in an experimental research work is way different than getting a paper published in computational research. They work very differently. Different fields work very differently. So I think it's okay. So even if you don't have public, you should not shy away from applying. You should definitely go for it. But if you actually meant in the program itself, don't worry about it. I think that is a whole different topic of discussion, like another 1 hour. So let's just stick to applying process. So Shubham's question, what kind of roles can you target after masters? Interesting. You want to take it up? Yeah.
Okay, so masters student can take very different roles. So they can just become professional engineers after they finish their masters. Now in some countries you give an exam for it, PE exams. That's one way. Some get into research and development in companies, and I'm talking just about companies that you can do different things. Certain engineering profiles, senior, associate, dash. Then you can so
this
people.
Is masters or PhD?
This is for masters, let's say. Okay. Well, everyone doing masters can definitely get into. I'm not saying they will, but can apply to companies as professional engineer positions. Those kind of the names are such professional engineers, but basically it's like a title for becoming an engineer as such.
Do you also get visa stuff handled with the degree, or how does the visa program work around getting a job after your master's or PhD?
Okay. That's actually a good question. So, can I take this, Anushka?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in Canada, many people prefer to come here because now they are just giving off express PR, like express permanent residency. I wish Gautam was here, like Gautam Sipana. He would have just gone gaga about it. So they are pretty proactive. If you have a Canadian degree, like any degree, like master's or bachelor or PhD, they are extremely welcoming of that aspect. I think in the US, the situation is slightly different. I think it keeps changing. I cannot keep track of it, but I think you can still get a job. I think after you get your study done with the degree, I think you have 3 years when you have the work permit or the work visa where you can still work. Because if you do a degree, especially in STEM, I think it's 3 years. But what happens after that, I think it depends a lot on how you classify your job qualification as, whether you are an expert in it, how much your employer is willing to back you up.
It's always about that. So yeah, as you mentioned, there's the 3 years OPT, which comes with any student visa that you're applying. After you finish your program, you get into that phase. STEM people have 3 years. In that time, you start applying for H-1B. And now that's another work visa that you want to get after those 3 years. That in most cases is lottery. And when I say this, lottery is in the 3 years, your name may come up or not come up. And to even get into that lottery, your job, like the job you're working in, should be willing to apply for you. So it's another entire game. But there's a lot of things around visa.
It's easier to get into a PhD program compared to masters or vice versa, because a lot of students would be facing difficulties deciding what to opt for. Sometimes their profile not be that stellar or something else, right? So what is easier to get into, or is there no such thing there?
I think the easiest program to get into is a master's through a course-based this thing. And the reason I say it's the easiest is that is most likely the program which does not pay you. So you are essentially a cash cow to the university. I'm not Like, but when I mean a cash cow, you are a cash cow. International
Yeah.
students are cash cows. The university, the departments run with their tuition fee. That's why they charge you so much.
So it's
So
like,
that's the easiest program to get into.
Yeah.
Any program which pays you is harder to get into, because now they are putting the money, they're investing in you. Like, especially what the PhD program is so hard to get into, because they're essentially telling you, I'm going to pay you for the next 5 years, guaranteed. So you need to prove your worth for it.
so there's a very interesting way to look at this. Like Surya just said, they channel the money they get from the master's undergrad students to pay me or the
Yeah.
PhD students.
Yeah.
Or you can look into the departments. If there's 100 PhD students, 1:10, 1:15 ratio may, like in that ratio, you have your master students multiplied. So you can imagine the acceptance level for a master's compared to PhD.
Yeah.
So that's the,
Is getting a job more difficult after PhD, because you would have to be paid more as well, right? And your level of entry would also be a lot higher compared to masters.
okay. Maybe Anushka can tell, I can pitch in my point later. Yeah, go ahead, Anushka.
So it depends on the type of job you want to get. Do not, if you're in a foreign country, trying to get into the government job is like waste of time. It's very difficult. Then again, if you're trying to get into different two types of field, academic, non-academic fields. Academic fields very difficult, because then you again go for postdoc, try to find another advisor who's willing to train you further, apply for assistant professor. That's completely another department. But when you're trying to get into non-academics into a company, what happens is they're willing to take you over a master's. That's because they know that you have more experience, have spent more time, have more patience, and you will be doing more productive work. That's what they think. Also, sometimes during your PhD, they try to make you collaborate with these companies, so they immediately hire you after you are done with the project.
Yeah. So like even now I'm actually working. So many people think, like, academia is very separated off from the industry. False, myth. Academia runs a lot based on industrial investments. There's so many companies investing their money, like, on projects, on PhD students, funding PhD students to do the research. So like I am collaborating with a pharmaceutical company in the US. And like, so the collaboration is great because they want us to do some research. We get back in the research, and then they apply it in their industry. This is even more stronger in European universities. It's very strong, even more than US. Like any North American university, European universities are very proactive with their industrial collaborations. Also, more to your older point about job opportunities, I can give you a scenario. Like one of my lab mates, she graduated last year, 1.5 years ago. So she had a PhD. So she was looking for jobs here in Canada, US, and in India, because she still wanted to move. Like she's an Indian. Now she's working in Shell, and she joined. Shell has this starters program, like freshers program, which means even if you finished your BTech, like you can still apply for the program. Like any degree which you just finished, you can apply for the program. Like say you don't have any work experience, that's what it essentially means. So she applied for that program. So there, and the field that she got roped into was an R&D in fluid mechanics. So you see what it means. So an R&D in fluid mechanics will definitely like to hire a person who has done a fluid mechanics in that field over a BTech student or B student from a university, even if they're IIT. Because there is just so much more expertise, just in the sheer number of years, you have accumulated much more knowledge in that field. So it really depends on what kind of job you're looking for. But say something like totally different, like say business management, data analytics, I think there I can't really comment on how different it is. Maybe you might be given some value over here because you've shown some academic merit, but that might be the only edge. But in terms of learning something from scratch, like how these Rajat and Taz were talking about different platforms, it is still the same. You still have to work from scratch, because I've seen some people do that after PhD, or like midway through the PhD when they want to change course. I've seen them do that.
Also, if you're doing PhD, there is a plus point on your visa. So when they're trying to give you the H1B visa, someone with a PhD has more points than someone with a master's compared to someone with a postdoc. things like that. So there's some different
So that would
ease
yeah.
to get a visa.
Oh my
yeah.
God, there are so many questions in the chat that we have to
You
cover.
guys can take that
do
question
we have
later.
time, Jay, or are you wrapping up?
Need half an hour break between the next session and this
I
session.
see. Okay. Let's go through it quickly. I'll leave the Canada question for now. Let's keep it more general. Are they possible to switch over to PhD from course based? Okay, this is a good point. So what I've seen some people do is, which I do not personally recommend to do because it's kind of dicey. But here's what happens: they enter into the university or the program through a course-based masters. Then they actually talk to different professors here, and then ask for a research opportunity in their lab. And then if such a thing falls through, and then that professor is also interested in you, it's a big then, it's a big if, it's a huge jump. And then they will say, okay, you know what, I can probably take you into a master's program. Then maybe you can convert to a PhD. Otherwise, I think it's most cases what I've seen. I've never seen them become a PhD. I've seen a course-based master's converted to a thesis-based master's through this way.
Exactly.
But I've almost never seen a course-based master's convert or fast track into a PhD.
Yeah.
It actually goes back to Shubham's earlier point. Like, would you recommend? Should I go to a master's or PhD? I don't think it's fair to compare both these degrees. A
Yeah.
PhD requires a different level of. It's not just commitment. You're getting into a different zone here because I think what you really need. I think you really have to go through a very deep self-awareness question as to, like, do I really want to do this? So I think that can happen only if you talk to many people already in that doing it. I don't know if that will help. Talk to someone who can probably you can relate to and try to get an idea of what's going on there, because a master's is still something, a slight extension of your bachelor's with maybe some additional masala. But PhD is not that. It's a different game. I think it's much more intense. So I don't think it's fair to compare. But if you're not sure, what I would suggest is, maybe what you can do is go and work as a research assistant for like 6 or 6 months or something, and say an IIT or IISc lab in India after you finish your BTech. Get an idea of how what is the lab setting like, what kind of things you're doing. Because even when you just enter that atmosphere, you can talk to so many people already that you get an idea. Then make your choice whether you want to do a master's or a PhD. That's what one of my classmates did. And I think when I talked to him, I could see that he found it very useful because he gave his GRE and TOEFL, everything in his 3rd and 4th year. But then he didn't really know where he wanted to apply or what program he wanted to apply. So he took kind of like a break here. Like for some 6-7 months, he went and worked in a lab in IISc. And then he made a choice. Then he did this whole application process.
Who
I
did
think
that?
that's something. Muhundan did that. He went to IISc and he did that. So that's something that you can probably consider if you don't really want to put in a lot of money and then get a loan and all those things and get into a high pressure situation. You can probably take your time and make a decision. If some of you I'm actually really amazed by how mature Anushka was even in undergrad to make this decision. So, but I think for some of you might take more time. No, I'm serious. It's a big thing. So I think it's something to talk about. Next question. Top funded areas. I'm going to skip that one. For chemical, what's the outlook like? Can you please elaborate a bit on problems of J1? How is shift going from a typical? I don't know. What's the shift like?
So, okay, let's start with the outlook of chemical engineering Canada versus US. It's the same because the companies are going to be spread out. Okay, for example, I work with this company which is based in Canada, also has branches in the US. They have same expectations. It's just that people probably, as Surya explained, the visas affect how you get these jobs sometimes. So that's the major factor you need to multiply into this. But otherwise, it's Canadian engineers are not going to be different from US engineers or European engineers. They will have the same qualifications. It's just a little bit more than that, I think. it's like stability wise. And with exchange programs, is NIT offering exchange programs with universities abroad? If so, this is a good point to come back to and discuss. I don't know if they're doing that.
I don't think at least I've not come across a program that actually does that. Mindax might be a program, exchange program.
Now, don't
but-
be confused. There's some programs with ICER and IITs that they finished their last year in a university in US, and those are like different scholarship programs. I'm not sure NIT has that. And if they have, there must be some clause to it. So yeah, we can discuss more about this. It'll take more time to discuss, I think.
Yeah. Actually, for the top funded areas, there's something I feel like a lot of money usually goes into bio-related fields. Anushka can correct me if I'm wrong. That's always there because think about it. So you get money for projects by writing grants, and essentially most of these grants, especially the governmental grants, are taxpayers' money that is coming to you. So you're essentially justifying why you're using that. So if you want to justify it on a more reason which they can easily relate to, or if it's more pertinent to their lives, I think usually bio-related projects, people are doing amazing work on, like, growing organs on a chip, heart on a chip.
No offense to Dia, but not Dia, sorry. Who asked this question about top funded? Yeah, Pranav. See, it is not going to matter which area is top funded. Your funding is going to come from your professor who's probably already got the funding. You cannot apply to NSF because you're not a US citizen. NSF is National Science Foundation. And any other kind of funding is not dependent on which area is doing well. It's dependent on how good you are an applicant for that funding. You get what I'm saying? So I think these are some questions you want to ask, but maybe not for your application process. It's not going to make.
I think they might also be thinking if they don't have any preference for a field, they'll be like, okay, maybe at least let me choose a field where I know there's more money so that someone will pick me up. That could, I don't know, I'm just guessing.
They need to have the aptitude. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Try, please try. It's yeah, you'll know.
Okay. I think the J1 visa question, we did that. Okay, you spoke about it. Okay, how's the shift going from a typical Indian education style to US system? Adapting to it? I think one big thing that was a cultural difference for me was you can't really cheat on your assignments. No more hostel, common room, one person writing 10 assignments. No, that doesn't happen here. I think you also become more mature and you take ownership for your learning. I think that's what I can think of one big change. In terms of just comparing the courses part between undergrad and this research is that's a whole different topic. That I think the research climate is very different compared to NIT and any university here. I think it's not so different compared to a university like IISc and here. I think the research culture might still be how do you do research, but definitely NIT and here is a big difference, definitely.
But also, I think, let's say you are an NIT student and one of us, we were once upon a time backbenchers. When you pay and go to a college in US, you automatically gain interest and start listening to the classes, and the courses are very, very well taught. For some reason, they're very interesting. And that's for many reasons. You pay, so you listen. That's one thing. You are interested, you listen. Plus, it's very good, so you listen. So
I feel like you also realize there's a lot more at stake here. So I think you just become more responsible. I think especially if you have a education logo on your back, I think you just become much more.
It's the scenario affecting you. I mean, you stay in your college hostels right now. You probably are like, I don't care. I'm not going to attend the first 8 a.m. class. And that's not happening. But when you go there, as Surya said, there's more stake. And then, you've done so much hard work to get there. You really probably want to attend few classes. So education's
regarding this, having a loan that is driving you to do things, that is same for job.
No, but
if
in
you
US,
if you don't like your job, take a home loan. If you don't like your boss, take a car loan. And you will start loving both of them.
Style is very good here, but I do. Good one, very good one. And also, I think something we should also say that adapting, I think Indians are very good at it. So don't worry about it. You'll adapt.
Yeah.
You
I think
will adapt.
yeah. I think that's a different thing.
And
Once
to adapting, I think I'll throw a pointer here. Someone mentioned earlier that I have a doubt. Now, this is something US people, at least my advisor and professors here, don't like the word doubt. You know, when you say the word doubt, it's like you're doubting their year-long research experience. The real word is question. I have a question. So that's like we have to adapt. But this actually comes through in emails. People say, I have few doubts with the research you're pursuing. Now that's like you're second guessing what they're doing. You can simply use the words like, I have few questions regarding the research you're doing. So whoever stayed till this point, at least till now, I hope they learned something.
And
I
I
might doze
think-
off after this.
yeah, I'm just going to crash. I think, but you don't have to really freak out about it. You know, people are actually nice. They help you out. Like just like any other setting, I'm pretty sure all these people in job settings, they will also agree. Like you're not really like, you know, alone and trying to figure everything out. Like you just have to open your mouth and ask for help. There is somebody, like almost everyone has gone through the same process, more likely. Like you all learned something because someone taught it to you. So people are usually kind and, you know,
And you will
helpful.
find other Indians who can help you through this when you get into it. Indians are everywhere. Don't worry about it. I'm not kidding.
Especially in North America.
Yeah, they're everywhere. No, I'm not kidding.
You want to cook masala chicken tikka, you'll get chicken tikka masala.
You will have your Diwalis, you'll have your Holis, you'll have everything here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think we just hit 4:30. Nice chat, people. Nice set of questions. I really enjoyed it.
And just for the record, Anushka was not a backbencher, right? Surya was
Hey, I sat with you guys. So I count there, right?
So Shubham is not a backbencher. See, you sat right next on the same side. So you but yeah.
We were not a big class. So I think our third, fourth rows were backbenchers. Come on.
Or we like to think of ourselves as backbenchers.
Online, they don't have a concept of backbenchers.
We don't discriminate. Yeah, we're all same.
Yeah.
I think
But I
people
like
dozed
the
off in the
online
first
system.
row.
I like the
Oh.
online classes. I like them. Like
Okay, right. We don't like that. No one likes that.
Okay, man. Great. Thank you all.
Yeah,
There we
I'm
go.
so happy you guys asked questions. Keep up.
ज्यादा तो मैंने ही पूछ लिए.
कोई बात
हाँ,
नहीं.
हाँ. 2
भी
questions.
अप्लाई कर ले यार. आजा इधर आजा.
शुभम वही प्लान कर रहा है आना है इसको उधर.
Yeah. So we'll resume at 2:30 again, right, for the MBA session. Or we wanna continue. I don't know. Because we had told them
Let's
that.
take a break
Okay, fine.
because
so,
it's been long.
yeah, it's better if you inform other people in your class group, because official time is at 2 p.m. I think for MBA session.
2:30. It is 2:30.
वो doc में 2 लिखा हुआ है, but that's fine if it's already 2:30.
Oh, it's 2 क्या? मेरे को याद नहीं था. Okay, my bad. So let's keep continuing then.
Make up
Oh,
your
sorry,
mind.
guys. I'm so sorry. We're so sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay.
All right. Thank you guys. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it
Morning.
at 2:30. I'll inform them. Okay.
Put
Let's
it in
take a
their class groups. Then. We'll
Yeah,
join back at 2:30, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Surya. Thank you.